Hey guys, today we're going to be analyzing a Hikaru Magnus game. This was recent. It just happened yesterday at the Title Tuesday. Magnus did win the Title Tuesday and Hikaru got second. So let's dive right in. Okay, so Magnus opens the game with knight f3, d5, g3, the beginning of a Catalan. Hikaru copies. They're just developing the bishop. Okay, Magnus plays d4. And basically in the Catalan, what you do is you play c4, you castle, put the knight on c3, put the queen on c2, or put the knight on b2, play b3, bishop b2, and you just beat your opponent. So let's see how well this worked for Magnus. He castles. Okay, so here Black might be trying to play some b5, and also potentially some e6 with knight here and pawn b6. Trying to put the bishop on this diagonal to counteract this very strong Catalan-esque bishop. Okay, knight f6, knight d2, Catalan, c5, counter strikes at the center, hoping to get something like, let's say, b3, takes, e5, knight back, e4. Some position like this, where he would be like slightly better, where he'd maybe bring the queen out, put the knight on h5, like open up some attack, right? So Magnus avoids that, and instead he himself plays c4. Now here, Hikaru castles, Magnus takes, knight takes, and now actually Magnus gets this e4 idea, but the computer gives Hikaru a very, very, very small advantage because Hikaru has this nice move, knight to b4. So here, you might be thinking, why can't Magnus just play a3, boot the knight goes back, and then play d5. So I just showed, say like knight back, d5, knight d4, or d5, yeah, d5, d4, takes, put the knight here, and as you can see, white is slightly better here, right? So here Hikaru shows us why. He plays knight d3, and his idea is, I'm going to take your bishop no matter what you do, because it's stuck. Say you play queen e2, you just take the bishop, take back, and take. So that's his idea. Magnus plays knight c4, opening up an attack to the queen, telling Hikaru he has no other moves. Knight here, knight here, knight here, knight here doesn't work. Or knight takes f2, so he has to take. The rook takes back, and now here Hikaru takes the pawn on d4. So here Magnus would obviously recapture, but now what this allows is after a move like knight b6, the bishop is staring down at the white queen side, and it's very hard to make a decision here. Let's say, for example, you trade and play like rook c4, right? Trying to defend your knight. Here you can just take a free pawn, and okay, that's not the best move, I think. Yeah, okay, it's rook d8, pinning the knight to the queen, and like this is just one example of how like the position can go so wrong. But yeah, so instead of taking and allowing this knight b6 or knight e5 thing, Magnus plays e5. And what e5 does is it's stopping the bishop from seeing this pawn. So let's say, for example, now it's just like the bishop is gone from the board, right? It doesn't really work the same way. So now here e5 is a brilliant move, but again, black is still slightly better here because they have this nagging pressure, right? Here, black plays knight b6, and you can't actually be so fast to recapture the pawn. So for example, you trade with the queen. Here, black has this very annoying bishop takes e5, attacking the knight, which if the knight moves, you lose the pawn. Now you're just down 2 pawns here. It's a horrible position for white. Instead, of course, Magnus does not do such a thing. Instead, he plays knight to a5. He avoids this little tension, and he continues pressuring this pawn. Again, just a little note, Magnus is down a pawn in this position. As you can see, Hikaru is +1. So Magnus plays knight to a5. Here Hikaru has some decisions to make. Should he develop out his bishop? Should he play rook e8? Should he play queen d5, hitting the knight? A lot of decisions. Or should he go after this pawn? So knight d7 or something, etc., right? And knight d7 multi-move hits this, right? So instead, what happens in the game? Oh, sorry, did this happen in the game? Oh yeah, so Hikaru spent around 30 seconds here, and he did play knight d7. This move hitting the knight and hitting this pawn. So here, of course, Magnus retreats, the knight defending this pawn, which is not actually the best move here because it, okay, Hikaru just repeats, but I think, again, this nagging pressure, maybe like b5 could have been possible at hitting the knight out. and then of course like maybe down the road when taking this pawn. So okay, Hikaru goes back, Magnus goes back, hoping for a draw, but Hikaru finds the best move, bishop to h6, attacking this rook, and getting his bishop's eye off of this e5 pawn. Here Magnus plays rook to a1, a horrible move. The rook is so passive here; it has no future at all. Instead, a move like also rook c2 wouldn't work because the bishop here hitting the rook. Or maybe like knight d2 could have been slightly better than what Magnus chose, but I'm not saying I'm better than Magnus. I have the engine on. So yeah, so rook to a1 is played. Here, Hikaru plays the top engine move d3, and the only move to note to keep any sort of advantage against Magnus, because the pawn is under attack and you have to get this pawn out of danger. You could try bishop g4, but again, that just loses the advantage immediately. This idea, right, and now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Okay, so you can't do that. So of course, here Hikaru plays d3. After this move b4, Hikaru, I think he will. Oh, so sorry. First, so Hikaru could have maybe tried to go bishop g4, but again, this loses a little bit of the advantage because the b7 pawn is hanging. And now that when the queen moves, the knight can go back, right? So instead of losing this b7 pawn, Hikaru defends it, and then prepares this move on bishop g4. Okay, here Magnus plays h4. Now Hikaru does play bishop g4. I can't really explain to you the point of h4. Maybe he mouse slipped. I can see he played this move in 2 seconds. So if maybe you try to play h3 to try to stop it, but it makes really no difference. Bishop g4 comes in. The queen goes to b3, and here we have a position where for the first time in his life, Mr. Carlsen is losing. He's down 3 points according to the engine, and 1 pawn. And Hikaru just keeps pushing the pawn down the board. Like, Hikaru's a Sigma. He's not gonna stop right there. He's gonna be like, no, I'm gonna keep pushing. So he pushes, rook to d1, threatening nothing actually at the moment. But if eventually he would like to take this pawn, if you do it, let's say king h8. If you do it right now, you would lose the rook. But here after this move e6, Magnus plays queen to a2, and after queen to d3, Magnus sacrifices the rook. So here, Magnus, he didn't really have an option. Like, you can't stop knight d5, knight c3. You cannot stop this. And also your knight is hanging. Just to note, if you play a move like knight to e1, so trying to be like, if you take my queen, I take yours. Here, white is slightly better. No, instead, here there's this amazing move, pawn takes e1 queen. And now there are 2 queens for black. Whichever one you take, the other one still thrives. Here, black is just up a piece. Same thing in this position. Black is just up a piece. So yeah, so Magnus has to sacrifice with rook takes d2. The bishop takes. Magnus recaptures with the knight. As he doesn't want to trade all the pieces. Like, for example, he took with the queen takes, and Hikaru would easily win this endgame against Magnus. So here, obviously, Magnus tries to keep the pieces on the board. Plays knight takes d2. Opens up this bishop to this b7 pawn, and obviously this knight also. So Hikaru ignores the threat, plays bishop here, losing part of his advantage, and Magnus goes straight for the kill. He says, okay, I'm going to take your pawn, and now Hikaru plays knight to a4, and shows us why this is slightly inaccurate. It's because the knight is simply a little bit stuck. So, say for example, you played knight d6, now knight c3 comes in, and by the time you can remove this knight, my pieces will infiltrate. Let's say queen to, I don't know, queen to a1 doesn't work, queen to b3 would just hang the knight, queen here, knight e2, and like it's just so bad, right? You're down knight and a pawn for a rook, so okay, so here Magnus plays knight c4. Knight d6 would have been better, or knight c5. Okay, he plays knight c4. Here Hikaru brings in the knight. After queen to d2, Magnus is desperate here. He's hoping for Hikaru to trade the queens, so then now he can defend this this endgame because he has taken a b7 pawn. If you see in the last endgame, he had not done that, so now he wants to. But here Hikaru takes the knight, which is free. The queen was defending the knight. When the queen moves, queen can now take. And after a move like rook c1, they would lose to knight e2 check. queen takes e2, queen takes here. The king moves, you just take, and you're up 2 rooks. So that's just completely losing. Okay, so then Magnus has to play this move, knight d6, hitting the queen and hitting the bishop. Queen goes back. Now h5. You cannot actually win this knight because of here. So Magnus has to try something. He's trying his best. If he trades more pieces, he's just gonna. Oh, sorry. That would blunder a draw to here, right? I would blunder a draw. Just keep going back and forth. But sorry. So no, he would obviously he would take the pawn, and now Magnus is trading more pieces in just a bad position, right? You always want to keep more pieces on the board when you're losing, so you have more of a chance to attack. So instead, Magnus goes h5, hoping for this attack. Knight b5 is played. The computer says it loses some of the advantage. I don't think it does. I think it's the exact same. For rook c1, queen e7, rook c5, rook to d8. You can see this rook is pinning this knight. Of course, if you take, you could take, which would give up most of your advantage. But instead, of course, you would just take the knight. And again, trading when you're down is not a good thing. So here h6 is played, hoping for some miracle. I don't know, like hoping for some like this. Like, I don't know, hoping for this. But Hikaru is experienced. He takes the knight. After pawn takes, he takes with the queen. And in this position, actually, sorry, not in this position. After queen to d4, Magnus Carlsen saw it was just hopeless. He traded. He played a few more moves. After this nice move, a5. Basically here, you can't play rook a8 or rook b7 because this bishop is sniping. If you play rook a8, you just lose the rook. Right, so a6 could have been played here. But then again, he just didn't want to run into this nuisance. So he played a5, forcing this trade. And now, after rook to a4, he's just like, I'm going to take one of your pawns and you're going to lose. So you're after rook c5, bishop to e4, bishop to f1, trying to play some a6, a7. Magnus Carlsen does not go down without a fight, by the way. So here, it was, I don't know, maybe it was going for rook b1, hanging checkmate. Instead, Hikaru plays king to f8, and Magnus resigns the game. And that is how Hikaru beat Magnus. But Magnus would go on to win this event, as Hikaru had a not too good tournament. He lost to Vincent Keimer. I think somebody else, but I'm not sure. So he lost to Vincent. And it wasn't a great event for Vincent. But yeah, Hikaru did good. He got second. Magnus got first. As usual, he is the king. In this event, Magnus beat Hans Niemann, Daniel Naroditsky, and Fair Chess. And he lost to Hikaru. This was the only loss. He got 10 out of 11. And yeah, he's above 3,300. He's doing great. And that's it for today's video, guys. Bye.